Great. Thank you so much, Ellie. Hello, everyone. This is a green mining panel, the last panel today, March 11th, 2021. We're at 7:30 or just past GMT time. It's 11:38 here in California. I'm here with our two panelists. I'm here with Austin Davis from Community Electricity, and I'm also here with Mike Blais-Cohen from Pow.re over in Montreal, and Austin is based in Santa Monica. Welcome, gentlemen. We're just waiting on Alexander Kalmykov from Gazprom Neft in Russia, who's also in the green mining space. And we want to quickly thank Ellie for her technical help there, Juliet Sue for helping curate this panel with us, and the various sponsors and everyone else who's been involved in getting us there. Let's just say a quick hello to you, Austin, and to Mike, and then I'll speak a little bit about your background. Welcome, gentlemen.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, James. I really appreciate it, and great to be here with you too, Mike. It's exciting to have these distributed conferences these days. It's easier too without the travel, but traveling will come soon enough, right? So yeah, Austin Davis, as you mentioned, Community Electricity is the project, and we basically are building virtual power plant-based communities in California, and the goal is to extend that further on, and we are using blockchain as the backbone of these kind of ecosystems, and doing some mining as well in parallel to that. So it's you know, that's the way we see the future of these networks supported, is through green and renewable energy, and getting the people more involved and giving them an upside in the process too. So that's my quick intro, and I'll pass it on to Mike, and then we can just have a good conversation here today about everything.
Terrific. Welcome. Thank you, Austin. Welcome, Mike Blais-Cohen from Pow.re in Montreal.
Hi. So I'm Mike Cohen. I've been mining since 2013, and co-founded Pow.re, a company that has been in the hashing power production sector, and we basically provide services for miners, both financial and also virtualize the opportunity to mine, so that entrants in the market don't necessarily have to source their own power purchase agreements and equipment and build infrastructure and manage the heavy lifting that is you know, Bitcoin mining. So we handle that for third parties.
Great. Well, thank you and welcome both. Again, we're waiting on Alexander from Gazprom. Hopefully he'll be joining us. And my name is James Cooper. I'm a professor at California Western School of Law. I'll be moderating. I'm also Associate Dean of Experiential Learning. And so I'm really about finding ways for students and others who are lifelong learners, as we all are, getting the skill sets, getting the opportunities and the experiences so that you can be on panels like this, that you can have some time in a space of your choice, in this case, green mining, and then help others navigate that space and really have a robust discussion about some of the major issues. And one of the major issues, and it, like, the timing couldn't have been better, guys. Yesterday, Andrew Ross Sorkin from the New York Times wrote a piece in his Deal Book column that everybody reads. And it was in part an interview with Bill Gates, who wasn't so happy about the environmental impact of Bitcoin mining. Can we get your reaction, please, each of you? Austin, if you go first, about what Bill Gates said and how this has played out in the New York Times.
Well, first of all, Bill Gates is he's been in business a long time, so he says what's good for his bottom line of his businesses, just like we all do, I guess. I think to a degree, though, he is right. In the future, basically, we have to go more and more renewable to support the network long term. People, you know, municipalities and governments aren't going to be distributing large amounts of power to Bitcoin mining when people's homes are without power, right? Like in California has been for the past many years, and a lot of places on the planet with the fires and the blackouts and all of that. So we need to get more innovative with the way we distribute and generate energy, especially to support Bitcoin, because there's going to be, I see a lot of heavy tax coming for energy that is purposed towards Bitcoin. Because it just makes sense as people make more and more profit, as the network grows stronger and more demanding. How do you support that? Well, one way governments could support that, or at least allow it to happen, is to tax it heavily so that there's even more money flowing in the economy. Now there's going to be ways to offset that too, right? So I think to some degree he's right, but really he's just pointing out a problem that we're all here to solve. And I don't see it as an issue because Bitcoin will get the power it needs one way or another. I just think it should come majority from renewable, but that's the same with any power that we're using here on the planet, right? Whether it's solar, geothermal, wind, hydro, there's issues with all of them. Solar probably one of the least, but yeah, I'll stop there. But the main comment is it makes me laugh when someone is powerful and is, he was responsible for a lot of the vaccine creation, so he's making profits on every single shot that's given. So at any rate, he licensed that tech to Moderna and the others who were selling it. So at any rate, I'll pass it on to Mike. Those are my comments.
Sure. Thanks, Austin. I mean, like you hit on a couple good points. The main one being that like Bitcoin mining is a power consumption exercise and not a power production one. And depending on the source of energy that you choose is where your carbon footprint is going to come from. And so if you're mining from renewables, your carbon footprint is nil or very small. Whereas if you're mining from, say, a coal-fired power plant, you'd have more of an impact. But that's the same of, say, driving an electric car, right? Like a Tesla that is powered by a coal-fired power plant doesn't really reduce your carbon footprint all that much. I mean, certainly it does to some extent. There's less CO2 emissions from the vehicle directly, but it's just passed on somewhere else. So really, it's an ethical choice on the miners. It's both an economic and an ethical choice, right? Like the economic one is that we're not in business to mine at a loss, and so we choose the power sources that are the most economical for us. And typically, those energy sources are from producers that have energy that is stranded and no other consumer, and that's why they're cheap. They're cheap because there's not a community or a hospital or a transit system that relies on that power. It's power that doesn't have anywhere else to go, and so we come in and take advantage of that. But the part of those comments that Bill Gates had made was he didn't see anything inherently wrong with mining so long as the source of energy were renewable. And we see that the mix of energy in Bitcoin mining, as it tends towards the cheapest ones, does gravitate towards renewable energy because fossil fuels aren't that cheap at the end of the day. Gas-fired power plants are cheap to put together at the onset, but over time, the cost of the fuel, of the consumable, outweighs the cost of the infrastructure. And so, as a company, we Pow.re, it's in our name, but it's an acronym for proof of work and renewable energy that also kind of rings like power, but we've committed to only consuming renewable energy sources for our mining activity. So.
And what about you, Austin? Are you seeing that kind of bifurcation between, oh, this is flare gas, or this is somehow it's excess energy, but it's not really green, versus like real green? And is there that kind of a fracturing, for lack of a better expression, in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's stepping stones, right? Like most corporations that are green are simply buying carbon credits or other RECs to offset, their carbon footprint, which is a stepping stone to actually being completely green. There's a lot of greenwashing that goes on, right? If you tear down a rainforest to put up solar, that's not necessarily green, or at least not at first, until it balances out, until the rainforest grows back somewhere else, then maybe it will be in the future. But that's not really the way to do it. You want to take empty rooftops or open spaces that are already open and take advantage of the sun that's hitting the earth in those places and distributing it to people nearby. The problem is, as Mike mentioned, a lot of times people get ahead of themselves and they build these networks and then they don't have the place to distribute the power, or it's too far away. So people like Mike step in and set up the Bitcoin operations near there. And I think that's great because why waste the power? So I think like I said, it's stepping stones to the process of getting more and more green. And some of it is washed in the middle and some of it is more balanced than actual green, but it's going in the right direction. What I really believe is that we need to further distribute the actual mining because the centralized miners are always going to be a thing, but there's a lot of unused electricity that is distributed, right? Like think about every single car battery that's sitting there at night doing nothing. That could be put back into some operations to not only for mining, right? Like, but to support the grid in general, whether it's a local grid or the greater grid. So there's a lot of unused power that we just have to get smarter about managing. I mean, if you, like I said, if you just collectively take every electric car and think about the battery capacity, what could that be used for when it's not being used, which is 95% of the time, typically for a car.
Right.
So that's my answer. And I see we have some new guests here.
Wonderful. Alexander, are you there? Can you hear us? Alexander Kalmykov from, welcome. There.
Yes, testing.
You're in the club.
We see you. We
hello.
hear you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hello,
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm glad to see you. And I want to tell you about our project. Is
Please.
it clear?
Please.
We can hear you.
I'm from Gazprom Neft, Russia. Do you know something about this?
Yeah. I
Tell
don't
us.
have an applause track.
This is not Gazprom. This is not Gazprom.
No, this is Gazprom Net.
Gazprom is mothership company, and we are daughter company, Gazprom Neft, or Gazprom Oil, so to say. And we are, this is our.
We're super high tech after getting everything
Yes,
backwards behind me
yes.
earlier. So we're.
Thank you very much,
still-
James. Thank you very much, James. I'm very glad to see my information list to you. And so our company is now in this market. We are starting to use oil gas. Oil gas is this. I don't know. Maybe I need to tell to our people what about oil gas. This is gas which not interested to any oil company, because do you see fire at this picture?
Mhm.
We need to fire up this gas, because we can't transport gas to any transport system, because our sites are at very deep Russia, just Yamal and Khanty-Mansiysk and so on and so on. So we have very big problem about gas, which can come with oil. And before this, we started to decide this project to move gas to the gas system and to the north state too, maybe, and maybe you knew about this. And but I understand that we can't move every gas to this transport system, so we need to utilize this gas at the site. the main thing to utilize this gas is fire. You just seen this at the picture. But I also understand that, and our company, of course, understand that this is not comfortable, not green, and we have many contributions to be green at the market. So we can't fire up oil gas to the atmosphere. We need to understand that we need to create such systems to use this gas. And as I can tell you, we are using mining of Bitcoin or mining of Ethereum, using this gas. No fire, no any emission, no any emission, but emission of gas power station, of course. But fire emission is much more bigger to emission of
For the environment, Alexander, you're at, yeah. But
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Repeat, please.
No, not to worry. We are we're, for those who are just joining us, we're doing our green mining panel for Digital Week Online. I'm Professor James Cooper from California Western School of Law in San Diego. I'm here with Mike Cohen from Pow.re Corporation, Pow.re in Canada, headquartered in Montreal. And I'm also here with Austin Davis, who is an engineer, has his master's degree from NCSU. He's a tech advisor to tech companies like Casper Labs and MeWe.com.
And thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Alexander. Hang on one second. If you must go, we have one other question for you.
Okay.
We still have Alexander here, who's Kalmykov from Gazprom Net. What do you say to people who say, hey, you're one of the few Russian state-approved Bitcoin operations. You've got government or state help. I mean, the rest of us would love to get.
Okay. Yeah. You mean state government laws and everything about this? Yes.
Yeah. That it's somehow much more legitimate.
That's simple. So we have one law project from 2020 about digital currencies in Russia, and also we have lawless project about so to say digital currency, and every thing that you can give to our government in the case which you creating Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency. But this is going to check you only if you are Russian residents. If you are not Russian residents, you can produce Bitcoin at the Russian side and don't pay any and don't pay any cost to Russian government. And this is the main thing that you are going to get via our laws. Okay.
Thank you for that. You must go now, or can you stay a few more minutes?
I can stay for a few minutes, of course.
Please, let me ask the other panelists if they would love to get
Yeah,
some
of
government
course.
help.
I'm glad to answer questions.
Thank you. One moment, and we'll ask the others.
I'll shut down my microphone to do not disturb my opponents.
Thank you. Mike, would you love the Canadian government to get behind you?
I'd love it. Sure. I mean, we have had some challenges with moratoriums and have had to essentially go through RFP processes in order to obtain power purchase agreements. In Canada, for the most part, the utilities are provincially run, meaning they're owned and operated by the government.
By the state, by the sovereign states.
Yeah, exactly. So for example, in Newfoundland, we've dealt with Newfoundland Hydro, Nalcor. In Quebec, we've dealt with Hydro Quebec. They have some level of apprehension to our industry because of the volatility of the asset, and they've felt, or at least early days, the sentiment was more negative than positive. But I think we're seeing that change with more institutional adoption, with the level of seriousness that other countries are giving it. And I think Gazprom and Gazprom Neft getting involved is actually maybe going to wake up some people on the utility company side. They may see that there's that these industries and sectors are legitimate, and that they have to compete.
Not just legitimate, but indeed the future, profitable, part of national industrial policy.
That's
That's
yeah,
right.
well, you all you have to do, and we'll come to Austin in 1 second. When this is all done, Mike, let's send this video to the Canadians, and I hope each of you will do it to your respective governments, because the contest is on.
That's
Austin,
right.
I'm sorry, but I need to tell you about our cases. So some Canadian investors are already interested in our project. Also, Korean investors interested in our project. So maybe we have here someone that interested in investing to place in mining system to Gazprom Neft. Maybe not. I don't know.
We definitely should have a conversation.
Yeah,
Okay.
we all have each other's
Okay,
emails.
I'll send my email to chat, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Alexander, for joining us, and stay on as long as you can. It's always
And
good to have the Cyrillic alphabet available on our.
Yes, it is.
All righty, Austin, the floor is yours. How about some state intervention in a good way?
Not intervention, but support. Yes. And we already have that because we approached it in a different way. We're working with the California Energy Commission and the Department of Energy already to build these prosumer networks, which is essentially peer-to-peer energy grids that run on a virtual power plant instead of a centralized power plant. You know, we're producing it locally on the rooftops, subsidizing the cost of the solar and the IoT and the nodes. There's a blockchain node in every home. So you might imagine what other validation or mining operations that those nodes are going to be doing. But the start is fixing the energy problem first, and the mining goes hand in hand with that, especially if there's excess energy. Each home can choose how to spend that excess energy, whether it's trade it back to the open energy grid, give it to their neighbor, or put it into the Bitcoin network essentially to support it. And whichever one is probably has the biggest upside is what they're going to do. So essentially we already are working with the government in that capacity in California, and California is one of the places in the States that kind of sets the tone or is the most progressive when it comes to energy and other legislation. So the more we can push hard in California, we think other states are going to adopt, and we're already talking to a couple other states about extending the same programs out. And there's lots of federal support for this as well. So that's our approach. We're not just coming out and saying, hey, we want to mine Bitcoin with government money. We're saying, hey, we want to fix the energy problem, and Bitcoin mining might be a part of that solution to get more financial incentive to the to the citizens, to the people that live in these communities. So that's how we're doing it.
No, thank you for that. Let me ask each of you this. I mean, it's undeniable that the Bitcoin network consumes massive amounts of energy, which is sort of the thing that we have yet to say full out. My question is it really worth using up all that power? Wouldn't you rather power a hospital, some schools, a factory making stuff that actually exists that's not based on digital ether?
Well, I mean,
Mike, please go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think we're taking any energy away from hospitals and schools and any other. I mean, most of the energy that we consume as a company is in remote areas, but you heard Alexander a moment ago say that they have this same issue, is that the gas that they consume is stranded because there's no other market for it, right? Like they can't liquefy it, they can't transport it. There's no other place to send it, and so it gets consumed on site. We're very much in the same vein, but and actually most miners are the same way, because that's where the cheapest energy sources are. But mostly, I think, is what is the merit of consuming all of this energy, and why do we bother? And yeah, Bitcoin a decade or so ago came into existence, and we now have a non-state money that doesn't have a central authority issuing it. But I think that the other major economic value and the innovation is the fact that we've built in the Bitcoin mining network two things that are novel. First, a digital time stamping machine that's irrevocable, the world's biggest decentralized clock that doesn't operate on physical time but on block time, right? Like these 10-minute increments of frozen transaction history. And we've also built the world's largest wrong answer machine, where we're constantly looking for the wrong answers, and when somebody throughout the world in a 10-minute period finds the right answer, there's a reward at the end of that. But that in itself is like the concept of this decentralized clock that doesn't have a coordinator, that is irrevocable. It is the value of consuming all this energy, because you couldn't do it in another way. And so, I don't consider it wasted, because there's no other mechanism to achieve what Bitcoin mining achieves. And so, it's not a waste if we're willing to pay for it, and if somebody sees utility in it.
Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, it's also kind of too late for that conversation. It's right. Too big to fail now. No matter what happens, people will keep supporting it and propping it up, and we're going to find the energy one way or another. So we might as well find better ways of producing it or sourcing it, as Mike was saying, from local unused or underused resources, right? So I think it's a great question to ask, but that question could be asked about anything really that we find valuable as human beings. Like, do we really need Coca-Cola? Is that something that we should be dumping billions of dollars in every year to produce and sending out sugar water to people? Well, it makes them happy, and it makes a lot of money for the economies, and it makes people, well, they're addicted to it, but it makes them happy to some degree, and it does provide economic value for the world, and yada, yada. And that's not the best example, because Bitcoin doesn't have any of those downsides. It doesn't have the, the sugar effect, if you will. Pretty much Bitcoin only has upsides, except for the fact that it does require a lot of electricity, which is also why it's valuable. It's hard to produce, just like gold, but it's even harder to produce than gold, right? So it's hard money, it's sound money, it's the only reliable money that we know that, you sit back for 1,000 years and theoretically, it will be the only thing that keeps going up. Everything else, think about gold even, right? If we mine one asteroid, there's enough gold and platinum and everything else on one asteroid that we could, get Elon Musk's network of rockets to keep coming back and forth 24 hours a day. Pretty soon, everything that is resource based approaches zero over time, right? Bitcoin is the opposite, and it's the first time we've seen something like that. So I think it's absolutely worth supporting with a lot of electricity. We just have to produce it better or source it better, because there's enough energy in the planet and hitting the planet every day to support it for millions of years. So why would we keep being stupid instead of just taking charge?
To Austin's point, right? Like if you first of all, Bitcoin's easy to attack because the energy that we consume is right there. It's obvious we're consuming tons of energy right there on site. Whereas the alternatives, the externalities are harder to capture, right? Like, what does it cost to cash a check? What does it cost to send a Swift transfer or a credit card transaction or any of those? And like, sure, there's probably a data center component to a lot of those, and Bitcoin mining might outweigh the impacts of the amount of computing power needed to cash a check. But there's also brick and mortar buildings and employees and trucks and a lot of things tied to those financial institutions. Like I think if you were to consider all those externalities, the amount of energy consumed by either would be just as staggering. It's just that when you look at Bitcoin mining, it's right there in your face. You have a bunch of computers plugged into a big power bill, and it's hard for people to wrap their head around like what economic value that brings to the world beyond just the people who mine it. So
and I presented it earlier as a false choice in terms of is the government going to support education or heating schools versus Bitcoin mining, but it's to those externalities that I want to turn now, because there are communities in which, and both of you have touched on it. Mike, you're up in Labrador, you're working with Indigenous people. Austin, you're working with different communities locally, and that provides jobs. That provides some forms of self-determination in terms of the First Nations of Canada, the Aboriginal peoples, the Indigenous peoples. How do we bring in that economic piece to it and make fungible, so people understand there's also a knock-on value or a multiplier effect that we should be considering in making these decisions about how to best invest government resources, which includes tax rebates and carbon credits. And
and we're not even asking for those yet. We haven't
not yet
have the carbon credits or tax rebates or any of that. Unfortunately, we're still spending our.
We're going to need it though. We're going to need it
eventually. I hope so. But one thing that you touched on is like the region that we're in particular has food security issues, right? Like they're remote communities, small remote communities where tomatoes cost exorbitant prices, or just produce is difficult to obtain. So we have been actively investigating methods of food production by repurposing the waste heat that we our byproduct effectively. We have sort of a weird byproduct that is difficult it's easy to recapture, but it's hard to put to good use because it's air that gets pumped out at like a 40 to 50 degrees Celsius range. So it doesn't have a lot of economic value when you look at other economic processes, like process heat in a factory is usually in the several hundred degrees range, and it's a high pressure, et cetera, whereas ours is low pressure, medium heat. But that could be reused to heat a greenhouse in a very cold climate like Labrador. So the only issue that we've faced is the light cycles that, when you get to the far north, there's periods of time where there's not very much light and other periods of time where there's too much. So, but again, when as a high energy consuming industry, lighting a greenhouse becomes trivial because the energy is already right there. So there's ways to repurpose this stuff.
So go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to chime in on that. I think we need to start simplifying the way that we understand these types of systems, because our economic principles and theories thus far, yes, they've worked to some degree, but there's a lot of flaws, and none of them, almost none of them, except for one network that I can think of, follow the fundamental principles of thermodynamics, right? Conservation of energy, entropy, and scarcity, right? As in resources, which we do have to some degree. So most of our economic systems work on profit's sake for profit alone. Hence, you have the problems with Facebook, AI, and everything else. The only thing they care about, these systems that we've created as humanity, is profit. Everything else goes by the wayside. You have mental issues coming out of that. You've got other economic issues coming out of that. But bottom line, if you're not considering the finite resources that we do have, your systems are flawed. So, if you're printing unlimited money, fiat money, it's not a good thing long term. You can find all kinds of very intelligent ways to do mathematics and prop things up, or fraudulent ways to prop things up, or however you want to extrapolate things. But Bitcoin is the only network that I've seen in my lifetime, at least, that absolutely follows the thermodynamic principles. And as an engineer, I respect that. As I think that we should start teaching at least the basics of thermodynamics in every discipline, so that people understand the theories that support the universe, and how Bitcoin is one of the only networks that really does fundamentally follow those same laws, if you will. I don't think they call them laws anymore, because nothing's a law, everything's a theory. Because go 1,000 years from now and tell me something is the same as it is today, right? The way that we understand it, but we're going to evolve in that period too. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I think we should really start considering thermodynamic principles in all of our economic and other systems.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Before we continue to the last part of the discussion, I just wanted to remind everyone you're sitting in on the green mining panel here at Digital Week Online. Very excited to have Austin Davis, Mike Cohen, and recently departed, in terms of not on the call anymore, Alexander Kalmykov from Gazprom Neft in Russia. You're both engineers, and you're both interested in computation centers and offering financial services, and for more in a more efficient way, into developing just an innovation that can do well and do good. Talk to me about other business models, including a virtual power plant, how that would work.
Yeah, I guess I'll take that. I kind of touched on it earlier, but essentially that's exactly what we are building in these pilot communities. Is instead of you have a centralized coal burning power plant, hundreds of miles away or wherever it is centrally located, you're producing through renewable energy on rooftops, or geothermal, or gas, as we saw earlier, or wind. You're producing it locally, meaning either literally on your rooftop, or in your backyard, or underneath your house, right? Or in the river that's flowing beside your house, however it is, or the dam. And you're taking that for, let's say you have 50,000 homes in a community. You're taking all that aggregate energy on the rooftop, you're funneling it in the house, and you have a connected smart network of IoT devices, your fridge, your washer, dryer, your everything, your thermostat, your smart meter. It's all connected and talking to each other. And you have some degree of management over these devices and the network. We call it a prosumer model, where you're producing and consuming at the same time, but you have a little bit more management and control. You could even connect Alexa, which is what we're doing, these Google Home, Alexa, whatever the network is that you can talk to, and you say, hey, Alexa, when's the best time to do my laundry, efficiency wise? And then you can program it through the smart speaker device to do it at that time. And if you manage overall, you'll get a sense of the best timing. And if everybody's doing that, the network will know, well, some percentage of people should do it this time and some percentage others. So the network will kind of suggest to people when the best times are, based on the economics. And then there's more excess left over when you do it this way. It's a virtual network kind of managed in the cloud. Instead of one central power plant, you have a distributed power plant that has the same amount of energy without the loss. Because usually in the transmission, there's sometimes up to 30% loss. So it's just a more efficient way of managing energy, and there's more excess left over that you can monetize in various ways. So that's a virtual power plant in a simple explanation, at least.
Terrific. Go ahead, Mike.
Interesting, also, because essentially what you hit on is a way of like load balancing the grid, right? And I think that Bitcoin mine, and James, earlier you'd mentioned about the about governments or state-run utility companies potentially considering ways or mechanisms that where mining could be useful. And I think that Bitcoin mining could become this virtual load balancer for the grid, because you have power sources or energy production sources that are typically far away from where the consumers are. You know, hydropower plants are not built outside large metropolitan areas. Typically, they aren't anyway. So the most of that energy through its transmission is often not most, but a lot of it is lost to heat. There's a lot of transmission loss. And so if you can build a sink or a consumer of that energy as local to the power source as possible, you've accomplished something that grids haven't really been able to handle over the past 100 years or so. That electrification has we're resolving something that didn't really have a solution before. So,
you've hit, I think, for this discussion, a really great.
Guys, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Alexander.
I need to tell you something about green energy.
Go for it.
Sure.
Do you know what is green energy now? Big green energy. There are two streams. One stream is nuclear energy, and second stream is gas energy. Your big windy and maybe water energy is not energy. It's a little. Check statistics. Please don't. I'll show my face. It's already me. Check statistics.
We remember you from the first part of the lecture. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Check
Alexander's
statistics.
here from Gazprom Neft, here to tell us about. One
Okay.
quick question. This is a global business. This is a.
Check statistics. Don't.
We understand what you're saying.
Don't look at my face, but check statistics.
All right, we're going to do both.
Pure statistics. Mining in China is most of all is coal.
Okay, and that's the point. This is a global business, and we're trying to
all over the world mining is 8 gigawatt. And Gazprom Neft can produce 2 gigawatts per one site.
Wow.
In gas, not in electricity, electricity.
All right. Your gas is bigger than our solar. We will give you that.
Yeah. You need to put generation.
Alexander,
generation machines.
We get that.
But this is not coal gas.
Yeah, and they're doing it in Sichuan in a more sustainable way. They're doing it in Labrador. There are things going on in Kentucky. This is in Paraguay. This is a global business. What's the future look like, Alexander? What's the future look like for you?
I can say about this two main things. The first main thing is that Bitcoin is the future currency of the world. But
agreed.
But I can say that it is possible to be the future currency of the world for next maybe 4 or 5 years.
Okay,
I
that's the
can say,
future.
I can
Stick to
say,
it.
I can say why. I can say why.
Please. That's your
You're
second.
saying after 5 years
Bitcoin
it will
doesn't
be?
have smart contracts.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Bitcoin doesn't have smart contracts.
Okay, unlike Ether. Okay.
It has smart contracts, but they are not so good to program as an Ethereum.
Okay. And
So
you're saying 5
Bitcoin is
years? 5
Bit-
years?
5 years and Bitcoin will go down.
In 5
Because
years.
yeah, because I think that everyone will understand that Bitcoin is just the first implementation of blockchain technology, and this is not the best implementation, because I think that Ethereum is not the best for now, but it's more better than Bitcoin.
Okay.
So I think that Ethereum protocol will be better than Bitcoin in next 5 years in one case, because in Bitcoin you can't program money, and
Okay.
in Ethereum you can program money, and Ethereum is the second cryptocurrency known in the world, and of course many protocols that known in the world that implementate smart contracts, but they are known not such well as Ethereum. So Ethereum and Bitcoin, the main cryptocurrencies to the next 5 years, I think.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that.
Ethereum is a cryptocurrency to be as a platform to program smart contracts, and Bitcoin is the best platform to get something like a gold. Okay.
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Alexander. Thank you for joining us. Now let's ask you guys, what about the future of green mining? We know what's going to happen between Bitcoin and Ethereum. What about the future of green mining? And where's Alexander going? He's having more fun than we are.
He's at a discotheque. Yeah.
I'm still here.
Okay. Oh, okay. Are you at a disco? Where are you?
I'm sitting at a bar.
Okay.
I saw a nice
drinking
dark
beer.
in your hand.
All right. Good
You
man.
think,
There's a guy who knows.
It's something like evening now here in Russia, and
All
so
right.
I'm drinking beer and getting you cheers.
Cheers to you. Thank you,
Cheers.
Alexander. What about
Thank
the
you.
future of green mining and you guys?
I think it's distributed. I think that right now mining is somewhat centralized because it has to be, but I think we're going to see more and more distribution of mining and finding ways to collectively. We're already pooling mining, right? But we're going to find better ways of pooling it and distributing it through different networks. So that's what I think, at least. I think that's one way to scale the network, is to add more nodes and distribute the nodes.
Thank you for that. How about you, Mike?
Austin says, I mean, I don't know what the future holds for Bitcoin or Ethereum or even mining in general, but I know what our company is committed to do and has been doing, and we're going to keep producing hashing power in places where the carbon footprint is nil, whether that's in North America and South America, or potentially even in Russia, if Alexander and us have a conversation online about what there is to do with Gazprom Neft. But yeah, I mean, we're there's more and more interest. There's more and more value pouring into this sector, and as business owners and operators, the choice that we have to make is: are we going to run our operations off of sources of energy that are clean or not, and we've committed to consume clean energy.
Well, it's an interesting time to be in this space. Last set of questions while we still have our friend Alexander from Gazprom Neft. The question is, there's a geopolitical element to all of this. We're seeing different countries wanting to really create their own dominance in the space, whether it's the DCEP and the digital currency in the People's Republic, whether it's the e-krona, whether it's the sand dollar or the SOV in the Marshall Islands. We're seeing central bank digital currencies. We're seeing re-centralization away from these decentralized ideas that you both have been talking about. How do you see the sovereign state playing a role in terms of governance and regulation, but also potential support versus and doing so in the name of geopolitics, and doing so because it's good for the respective countries in which you're operating?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to need to create new types of, like, kind of like corporations are using carbon credits and RECs. I think we're going to have to create similar instruments for Bitcoin mining to offset the cost, because I think more and more countries and companies and people are adopting it. And the more that happens, the more support we're going to need to give it to thrive. So I think we're going to start to create new financial support instruments and vehicles to kind of subsidize the network, if you will. That's what I think we're going to start seeing, and that's what I'm going to push for, because Bitcoin is not even a small country anymore, right? It's a medium-sized country now. So it's time to start giving it more support, because it's gonna keep supporting us. So that's my statement.
Thank you for that, and thank you for participating, Austin. Mike, last thoughts?
Sure. I mean, there's definitely geopolitical risk to running the type of operations that we do, depending on the jurisdiction that you establish your mining operations in. Inherently, as businesses, we're kind of stuck to the location that we choose to mine in, and those risk factors have to be taken into consideration, and often they're reflected in the cost of the energy, right? Like it can be very cheap to mine in Venezuela or Iran, but there are inherent risks in operating in Venezuela or Iran. Not that it's necessarily bad, but one thing that has become interesting is, like, yes, we've seen some countries try to deploy central bank digital currencies, but we've also seen Venezuela, as one of the centers of mining, tried to launch their own mining pool. We've seen Iran require Bitcoin miners in their country to sell back all of the Bitcoin that they mine directly to the central bank. And so you might see sovereign wealth funds soon try to establish themselves with have positions in Bitcoin in order to compete with the central bank digital currencies, because those wouldn't really alleviate the issue or the problems that Bitcoin solves. Evading capital controls, or, well, not necessarily evading capital controls, sounds bad when you say it that way, but economic sanctions on certain countries that are imposed, whether they're arbitrary or not, central bank digital currencies will continue to enforce. Bitcoin is a way to escape.
Colleagues, may I say one more question?
Sure.
Please.
I think that cryptocurrencies of a central bank is fake.
Of course, it's a fiat currency.
Well, it certainly isn't decentralized. I think we can all agree on that.
No. It's not. It's the problem is not that it's centralized, but cryptocurrency of any central bank is cryptocurrency programmed by central bank.
It's private blockchain.
No, this is the main
Well,
thing that
it's centrally controlled
no.
currency,
The
so you're
main
taking away
thing,
from the public
the main
protocol
thing,
advantages.
the main thing of central bank cryptocurrency is that you can't
There's no
see.
fixed supply.
You
Yeah.
can see that it is centralized cryptocurrency because central bank can produce anything that it wants.
And that goes to the point of monopolies. And again, the power of the state, this idea that there are certain public goods that we will pay for, healthcare, defense,
I didn't stop. I didn't
finish your thought.
okay. I didn't finish.
Okay.
So
but here's,
maybe what do you think about central bank cryptocurrencies? Is it bad, good, or I don't know? But I think that corruption in USA and Russia in percent, it's not a political mind. It's just statistics. Again, I can show you. I can show you the statistics.
thank you, Alexander. Let me
Yeah,
close.
no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I have to close out the panel now.
I didn't finish.
Please.
So, in my statistics, corruption in USA and Russia are the same, a little bit. Blockchain is the technology to show that corruption in any country in percent are the same. So I think that blockchain is technology that can be used in any country, in any state, to be a technology to show to the other world legal transactions. I'm not sure that corruption transactions in any country are the same, but I think that blockchain, this is main thing. Please, I'll tell you to journalists who want to hype on this them. I don't say that corruption.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. And I think what Alexander's raising here is close to what Mike was raising in terms of evading sanctions, evading tax authorities, that 95% of the energy that's been of the air in the room, in terms of, it's been bad press about, narco terrorists and mobsters using cryptocurrency to send money across borders or to circumvent sanctions that might be United Nations imposed or US imposed or any other.
Which is silly, because the US dollar is by far one of the most widely used for criminal activity. It's between 3 and 5%. Bitcoin is like 0.03%, because most Bitcoin just sits there. Most Bitcoin is, as he mentioned before, a store of value, which is why it's dominant, because people see the long-term value in it. So yeah, I think it's silly to try to pretend it's used for crime. It's the most traceable money we've ever invented. So why would you use it for crime?
I want to point out, according to Transparency International, Russia is number 129 on the list, and there are a lot of countries. Every country.
I think that Russia is not at possible point of this list, because Russia is upper and maybe down on this list. I don't know, but I'm exactly think that this position is not possible at all.
No, thank you, Alex. And that's the thing. These are all perceptions. These statistics are, 80%
But
of
I, of course,
Let me make one point. Let me make
understand
one point.
about corruption.
Yeah, but
I
80%
started
of
this,
the
I
statistics are
started
made
this
up.
them, and
that one.
I'll. Okay, but okay.
Thank you, Alexander, and thank you, our friends in all over the world. This has been Digital Week Online. It's the last panel for March 11th. Thank you for joining us in this free-for-all. We've talked about green mining, but we've also talked about a whole lot of other stuff. I encourage you, please take a look at Transparency International if you're interested in issues of corruption, and also the United Nations Environmental Program if you want to look at issues related to the environment. There are a number of international organizations to which the countries here represented all belong and have the conversation that we've been lucky enough to have. And I would just want to thank our participants. Austin Davis from communityelectricity.io. Thank you, Austin. To Alexander
Appreciate it.
Kalmykov from Gazprom Neft in Russia. Thank you for participating. To Mike Cohen in
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And to Mike Cohen from Montreal, Canada, thank you. My name is James Cooper. I teach at California Western School of Law in San Diego, and I write for CoinDesk, a column I've written about green mining, which you can check in January, and simply Google.
Thank you very much because you started not only about mining, but also political situation and Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency of the world. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you so much for your intervention and everybody for staying with us. It's been a ride. It's been a great ride. Thank you to Juliet Sue and all our friends at Digital Week. Ellie, you can take us off. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for attending.